There's this magic moment. Somebody appears on the scene and everything changes.
I am with you.
We've never seen anything like this.
I will fight for you.
This was a man who's met his destiny.
And I will win for you.
He said he was saved by God in order to make America great again.
His victory was the greatest comeback of all time.
You're watching history, so buckle up.
I don't think the American people have ever seen this before. A government that has moved this quickly and a president that has done so much when it comes to the border and energy and major investments from other countries. It's like warp speed.
47's on a hot streak, bringing head-snapping change to Washington, overwhelming the system with a volcanic eruption of action. Trump has a mandate from the people, and he's using it, and they're just getting started.
President Trump said on the campaign trail, success will be my retribution.
Despite the best efforts of those who would try to censor us, silence us, break us, destroy us, Americans are today a proud, free, sovereign, and independent nation that will always be free.
We're going to have one shot at this, and no other president's going to do what I'm doing.
America's back. Common sense is back. He is keeping his promise to you, the American people.
Inflation is down. Growth is up.
The numbers don't lie. The economy is soaring.
Lowest gas prices in 4 years.
And record tariff revenue.
The USA is on a roll, culminating in the signing of the One Big Beautiful Bill on July 4th.
The Trump economic golden age is full steam ahead.
America is back, thanks to the courage of President Trump, thanks to the leadership of his amazing
amazing cabinet, and thanks, of course, to our brave men and women in the United States military.
This is a message to the rest of the world. The days of ripping off America and Americans are officially over.
Between the attacks on Iran's nuke site and the Maduro operation, the U.S. military recruitment at an all-time high.
This president will go down in history as a peacemaking president.
Peace through strength. America's in charge.
And he's just got one filter, and that is America first.
Whatever they're doing, it's working. Zero illegal crossing, drug cartels frustrated, less crimes.
We have the most secure border in the history of this nation. If you think we're doing good now, you just wait till this coming year.
The president isn't taking his foot off the gas in 2026.
It's a new year. The stock markets are already making new record highs.
The Trump archive are a series of near impossible feats.
As for the next year, the American people have so much to look forward to. The president will continue to build off of his historic accomplishments.
2025 was setting the table, but the banquet's going to be in 2026.
This is the golden age coming.
He says, make America great again because every American is invited.
My fellow Americans, get ready for an incredible future because the golden age of America has only just begun.
What up, fools? Yep, we made it to another day. You got that damn right. You got that right. Just wait a second for this screen to populate. Hello, Cheryl. My boy, Doc P. Grumpy. Mutton Feed Bag. That is an awesome name. Lori. Outlandish. Patrick. Kathy. Marie. Hello. 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 So, number one in the like button. All right. Giggity. Giggity. So I had to do a trip to Columbus late last night at about 2 o'clock in the morning. My neighbor called me, couldn't walk. Right leg was basically dead. So, called the hospital for him down in Columbus, which is about 2 hours south for him. Told him what the issue was, and they said bring him down. So, he's going to be in there for a few days. Yeah, he said they got him pumped full of Dilantin and some other stuff. You know, that cancer's pretty bad. So I gotta he texted me this morning saying, hey, you know, can you take care of my dog for me? Or I can have one of my brothers come. I'm like, yeah, dude, I'll take care of your dog. I gotta see why the chat box isn't connected. Let's see, refresh. Okay, now let's see if it pops up. Let me go back. socket's disconnected. All right, so let's reconnect them. Webhooks. Panda hears me in here talking and pump up the volume. All right, let me see, make sure it's on the right one. Probably because I don't speak that loud. I'm going to have to get a headset with a microphone. Microphone, yeah, it's set on the right one. Got it jacked all the way up. So I'll probably have to put a little bass in my voice. Let's see. Is that any better? Hopefully it is. Talking to my mic. Yeah, so it's it'll be trying. You know, I feel bad for his kid. But, you know, like I told, I mean, he's pretty they're religious, they're a Catholic family, so you know, I told him when I took him into the hospital, I was like, look, just, you know, he don't like talking too much about, I said, but you know, you probably need to talk to a chaplain and get it, whatever it is, off your chest. You know, because I've seen it just in my family when, you know, that time starts to come near that, you know, people have regrets, you know, stuff that they really want to talk about, but they don't want to talk about. You know, it's almost like you're kind of getting right with your maker, you know. But hopefully hopefully he'll be able to get rid of, I guess, some of those demons, I guess you could say. But I know I have a couple times. So what's the dope? I'm the dope. So you know, I started to do a little bit of digging on this new acting DNI director. There, the chat started. Okay. Yeah. Yep, definitely time to get. You know, that's why I spend so much time with my mother, because you know, I lost my father when I was 16. I was close to my grandparents. I spent a lot of time with my mother, just because, you know, hey Laura, you never know, you know, and I've had enough regrets in my life, and I'm sure everybody does, if you're being honest with yourself. A lot of things I wish I would have said. So, you know, you just kind of try to make up for it, you know. You try to. That's why I say numerous times, if my worst enemy came and asked me for help, I'd help them. That's just me. I think that's just experience. Yeah, and we're going to get into that out of popcorn, and I think I don't know if I put it together, but it makes a lot more sense I talked to a buddy at Treasury, and I was like, dude, this appointment makes zero fucking sense. And he, he's not a, I don't even want to say conspiracy theorist, right? But he definitely, he's pretty high up in Treasury. He heads the DMARSH unit, and even he says there's just so much shit that's not making any sense that is going on, moves and changes that are being made just inside of Treasury that under normal circumstances. Well, I can give you an instance. I got he knows about the IRS. Look, the IRS, I know we covered it like 6-7 years ago. The IRS, they closed down their operation in DC. Remember when they boarded that up? There's a reason for that. And this goes to what I was talking about, or getting ready to talk about. So I get free health care from the VA, and whatever the VA can't handle, they outsource to like the Cleveland Clinic, Altman Hospital, whatever they needed, right? I've never had a single issue with the VA. Of course, it's probably because I don't give the VA any issues. Nasara, I know that's a hot topic for people, but I do know that the big chair, prior to him leaving one agency, his whole job / project was introducing AI into QFS. QFS does exist. I mean, he said, look, it exists. He goes, why do you think all of these server farms, these data centers are going up? A lot of it's not what we think. If you're doing, excuse me, the IRS, for the most part, was still running off of mainframe computers. If you can believe that. They'd have dumb terminals. So all of that stuff had to be upgraded. And you have to have the facilities in order to maintain this, right? So, people worry about, oh, we're going to a digital currency, and you've been in a digital currency. You every time you use a credit card, right? I mean, look, in one of the applications that I am using for the shirt business, okay? I just bought an application in order to streamline how these guys do different stuff. It wasn't no more than 15-20 minutes after I purchased this, I started seeing ads come in through my web browser and email on specific things to purchase to enhance this application. So you're living in it. You have been. And people make such a big deal. They can track and trace anything. Anything that's transmitted that has a frequency, digital, they can track it. So I do believe that we are very close to some sort of financial look, we have to go through a financial collapse. We have to. If it is true what we think is going on, you have to burn down the whole system. That includes the stock market, IRAs, all of that shit. Now, I don't believe you're going to lose it. I believe that's what these data centers are for. They're going through and theoretically, on a certain date, there's a capture done. Okay? Anything that you had at that specific moment in time will be used if there is a new currency or a new monetary system that comes in. And I believe that's what the big chair was doing when he was introducing AI into this, is to figure out, okay, what can we do? Is there a way to manipulate it? Is there a way to do this, this, and this? And when I say he was doing it, he was just, we'll say, the project lead of it. He had guys that were fucking 15 times smarter than any of us. That, like with me, with graphic analysis and with languages, it's simple for me. It's so simple it gets boring, right? That's what this shit is to these. A lot of them are kids. I mean, when he told me some of the ages, I mean, we're talking 13, 14, 15 years old. People that have to have their parents drop them off at work. That's how crazy it is. I know the one kid that worked in this project, he used to call Big Chair Grandpa just to piss him off. It's funny as hell, but he could be his grandpa. And these kids get paid, right? But they don't get a check. It goes into like almost like a trust. And they're allowed, per their parents or their guardians, X amount of dollars. So every month, every 2 weeks, however it's set up. But the bulk of it is kept into a trust for them. So when they turn of age, they can use it, which I think is a very smart idea. And, that was my understanding. That was the brainchild of Elon Musk, saying, look, this is one of the things I would like to see happen. And they made it happen. I can't, like I said, I can't prove it. This is just what is being told to me. And the people who tell me this, they have no reason to fucking lie. A lot of them, 2 of them, the other guys that work at Treasury, with this whole Bill Pulte gig, they had zero clue. And they're like, dude, what the hell is this? Why would Trump put a guy that has zero intelligence experience? Now, granted, I've worked for people in the intelligence community, not like directorate level, but who were very, very, very good managers. And sometimes that's all you need, because the guys below you know how to do the job. You just have this figurehead that is managing all the parts, right? Because that's where their experience lies. So when I started digging into this guy, I was just reading like through his Wikipedia page. I got 15 years on this dude. I mean, he was born in 88. All right. Now, one nice thing is, since he is basically just an acting director, and I had told people when Trump first started coming in that, every administration, they go through people like we go through socks. It's just because some people get into those positions and they're like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And then you have, people that get into these positions that, puts a strain on their families and they want to get out. It starts to work on their marriages. So they get out, which there was even guys when I worked with Admiral Blair, when we were in DC. So after, we left Jetpack and that, there were guys in the military who had been assigned to the understaff of Admiral Blair. I mean, these guys are like 20, 25 years in the military. They've been around, 4-star, 3 stars, world leaders. And some of these guys, when they got into DC, they called the detailer and said, look, I can't do this. Is there any way that I can basically get out of this assignment? It's too much stress, or I'm in too deep. Meaning, not that they couldn't handle the job, but there was so much of what they were being asked that they didn't feel that they were being effective. And sometimes they granted, a transfer, and if they didn't, a lot of times, they went to Admiral Blair or his lead staff member saying, look, here's the deal. And they would get out. Me, I was too stupid to realize, because I was still in like starstruck mode of being in that center of everything. Not so much. I mean, I really didn't care about the pomp and circumstance of world leaders or, President Clinton or VP Gore. I got a couple challenge coins from the VP, which was, really kind of cool. I was more into the job because that's always what I wanted to do. And so I didn't stress over it. I just took everything day by day. And like I said, a lot of the like awards, accommodation letters, stuff like that I got was just by dumb luck. It wasn't that I was any more skilled than anybody else, but when I wasn't doing something and these guys were all bullshitting and taking car keys and putting them in bottles of water and putting them in the freezer, so when you got off your duty shift, you couldn't leave because your fucking keys were frozen in your bottle. Stupid shit like that. Or they would take like your hat, your cover, and they would freeze it, or just stupid shit. And a lot of it is just to ball bust. I wasn't into that. I'd sit at a pause, and when I say pause, we call that a POS, not a piece of shit, but it's a position, like a computer with you know, different eavesdropping equipment, stuff like that, you know, stuff to recording devices. So whenever I wasn't busy listening to a target that I knew was going to be there, I'd be spinning the knob, what we call turning and burning, listening for stuff. And that's how I got most of my awesome duty assignments, and that's how I got to, you know, hang out with Admiral Blair, because I found something extremely big in the late 90s. Really big. I mean, this was so big that there's a reporting method that if you use this reporting method within the intelligence community, they have an obligation to get it to the president within 15 minutes. That's how critical. And I was just sitting on the watch floor one night, just doing what I do, and sitting there copying some Morse code, and I started seeing some patterns that I recognized. And I'm like, man, this person never does this. Why the fuck are they doing this? So I started recording, and as I'm copying Morse code, I got this little, it's like an instant message chat that we had in mid to late 90s, where I was talking to somebody at the Jock at NSA saying, hey, if you guys have any resources, I'm starting to listen to this. And the cool thing about it was the machines that we would work on, like SunSpark 5s or all kinds of other different machinery, I could actually just like drag and drop what I'm doing into this window, kind of like a remote desktop type thing, and they could actually see everything I was doing. And this was 30 years ago. So that was getting to be old technology. And you know, this met the criteria for this to go to the, what we called the old man. And, you know, a few weeks later, I'm sitting there with Admiral Blair, basically explaining how, who, what, when, where, how, you know. And then they were like, well, do you want to write an SOP on this, which was standard operating procedure? And I'm like, there is no standard operating procedure for this. This is me just doing what I'm trained to do. I'd rather be doing something than be bored and fucking around. Because to me, you know, I probably took the job a little bit too serious, but in the back of my head, I was like, all right, you know, if I was out in the field on an op or something, doing something, and I heard a tick, troops in contact, or somebody was doing something, or if I'm able to intercept some traffic where some of our guys got spotted, then that's what I was able to do. You know, that's what interested me. But so I started looking at this guy, because like I said, in the beginning, this shit made no sense to me. Okay? Why would you put somebody that is under 40 years old, he's 38, who he served as the director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency. He was the chairman of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac since 2025. Now, if you guys remember, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac got into a lot of trouble, right? So now I've heard for about a year, well, ever since Trump come in, there's going to be a major issue with properties, with taxes, with the overvalue, like the housing bubble that happened in, what was that, 08? So I was like, okay, but why intelligence? Why wouldn't you put this guy over, in some other cabinet position? Well, he started, and I'm sure it was meant to happen, but in 2025, Trump named this guy the FHFA, which is the Federal Housing and Finance Administration, which, okay, that's your experience. That is where you should be. That's where I would think you would be most effective. Well, when all of these stories started to come out about Letitia James, Adam Schiff, Lisa Cook, about mortgage fraud, okay? Trump turned to this guy to start digging into it. Now, keep in mind, to have this position, you don't need a security clearance. All you're doing is going through paperwork, right? There's nothing classified in dealing with this. So why would you bring this guy from a non-classified financial section to bring him into D&I? Well, this is just my theory. In order for him to get other pieces of the puzzle, you have to bring whoever you had working on the fraud, the embezzlement. You have to be able to bring this guy in to look at the other side, to find out, where did all this money come from? Who's laundering it? Now, once you start getting into stuff like that, now you're starting to get into Treasury. Now you're starting to get into DMARSH. Now you're starting to get into aspects of wire fraud and countries, who's moving the money. Well, a lot of that stuff, Treasury, FBI, NSA, they classify that stuff. Not that the information may be secret, top secret, no foreign, but the methods of collection is normally what makes the information classified. So, like when we see some of this declassification, where everybody's like, well, this is nothing. We already knew this. Well, a lot of the stuff that you see that's redacted is the sources, the methods. Like, every time that a piece of intelligence is drafted, you have to state how you got that information. And you have to be very specific, like, did you use ground-based satellites? Did you use orbital-based satellites? Did you use subsurface submarines? Did you use ships? Did you use ELINT? Did you use TAC-Intel, tactical intelligence? Did you get it from an operation where they send in pipe hitters into a foreign country, and as they're going through pocket litter, and if you guys don't know what pocket litter is, basically when they send in wet teams, and they call them wet teams because when those guys leave the rooms wet with blood, they go through pockets, drawers, they call that pocket litter. Gather any intelligence they can, as much as they can, as quick as they can. Laptops, cell phones, anything digital, anything written on paper, they grab. And that information, that gets classified, how it was obtained. So that's where I believe this is why Trump tapped him to do this. Because one, he's already been confirmed by the Senate for his current job. So they know that he can get confirmed. Because he's already been confirmed before. So why wouldn't he be able to get confirmed now? Well, now you, like somebody said in the chat, now you're starting to hear people get a little fucking nervous because they're probably starting to put some pieces together thinking, oh, shit. Because what's going to happen is, now, I was told, I don't know, I did look it up, but it was really weird on the wording of it. But allegedly, supposedly, Devin Nunes is at DNI. Now, I thought he was within the Trump organization. But I was told last night, he may be over at DNI. Well, is Devin Nunes going to be helping this guy? Because now he's going to get a top secret SCI, TK, whiskey, all kinds of caveats. Anything that this guy has a need to know, he's going to get a caveat for on his security clearance. So now he can take all the information that he knows to be true from Fannie and Freddie and the FHFA, and now he can start drawing a map saying, okay, this person, this senator committed mortgage fraud on this date. We know this to be true. So now, let's go to these dates. Let's start looking at money transfers. Let's start looking at bank accounts from a classified portion of the show. And when we do this, now, okay, so when this money came in and it come over, where did it go next? Did it go offshore? Because you have to remember too, when you do like mortgage fraud, in the moment they do an ETF, electronic transfer of money, that's wire fraud. I believe that's minimum 10 years, $10,000 per incident. That's the minimum, I think, can be charged, or the maximum. I'm not sure on that, so don't quote me on it. So, and I believe that shortly, once this piece of the puzzle, like, I believe Tulsi Gabbard was put in there for a certain reason, right? And I think that the certain reason was start to track 2020. Where did the data? Because look, anytime that you take any type of machine that has the ability to connect to the internet, that when you take that, what looks like a phone cable, a Cat 5, Cat 6, whatever, fiber, and you plug it into a port in a computer, it has a MAC address. MAC address is kind of like a fingerprint. So when you plug that in, that packet data, when it transmits and receives, it has the MAC address in there. So you know exactly what machine the data was sent or received on. So that portion, I think, is what Tulsi and some of the other guys at DNI were basically building a map, building a tree of, okay, this computer talks to this computer, but this computer doesn't talk to this computer, but this one talks to this one. So we know this one is higher up on the hierarchy. Okay, so now we got that. Who talks to that? That's how, it's kind of like building a crime scene. And I believe that's been done. That's completed. And now they bring on the next person, right? Her portion is done. Now we need to bring somebody else in that has an expertise in this. I'm still waiting to see how General Flynn, because I believe he's standing by. And you know how Trump loves irony, right? He loves throwing this shit in their face. I believe that if we see 6 months, a year, I don't think it's going to be quick. It's going to ramp up. But if we see General Flynn get selected or a temporary position in like DNI, somewhere along those lines, I believe possibly that is when we know that they're ready to possibly, hypothetically in Minecraft, arrest 44. That way, maybe General Flynn is the one who gets that done for all the shit that they did to him. Or maybe we will never see him. And that meme that Trump put up with General Flynn in a glass case, I don't believe Flynn is a lawyer. No, I don't believe, but I could be wrong. But I do believe that meme where it says break in case of an emergency and Trump standing there with a fucking hammer outside the glass box that has General Flynn in it, that I believe that's at some point in time is going to come true. What is the emergency? I really really, really do. I think it's going to get beyond interesting. Just like with this shit, you know, in Iran. You know, all these big time podcasters and news media. If anybody actually thinks there's going to be a deal in fucking Iran, they must be smoking crack. The IRGC is not going to give up. Okay? And the people that talk about this, here we go again. Trump says there was a deal and there's no deal. Trump doesn't know what he's doing, or why are you sending this person there? Most of them don't even know how the government of Iran works. Now, I'm not saying I'm a genius at it, but, you know, every time somebody pops up that's part of the IRGC, that's the problem. You know, it's kind of like the Gestapo, right? In Iran. They're like the enforcement for the regime. Well, yeah, Devin. Trump did give him a pardon, and because General Flynn was fucking wrongly convicted. They went after his ass. And you only go after somebody like that when you know they know where all the bodies are buried. And you look at Trump. Look how many times, I mean, shit, they're going after his family. Probably because they know he's conducting some operation that they don't know what the fuck is going on. And Trump's openly coming out and with his memes. You know, whether, you know, you think, oh, every time Trump puts something out on True Social with him having a Q or doing the Q sign or saying central casting, you know, that's just because you idiots who are falling into it. Well, guess what? In 2.5 years, that should be done. Because Trump will be gone. So, but if a lot of you guys have noticed, the media, why isn't the media coming out and talking about why Trump is putting these pictures with him with the pin at Q plus on his collar and saying, you know, why aren't they calling for the 25th Amendment? Because Trump must be deranged, because we've already proved that that's all bullshit. So why aren't they calling for the 25th? He must be crazy. You know, and then I think it was today or late last night, Congress isn't going to extend or whatever with the war in Iran. You think that's honestly going to stop Trump? I don't. And I think before too long, we are going to do a major fucking strike on Iran. And I think it's going to deal with, there's a reason why Trump said we're going to go after your bridges, power plants, and water, not in the civilian areas, but, you know, I've been told just by some of the people that are in that region reporting on some of the Arabic news channels that I follow, like on Telegram. It's not that they're just saying it, they're showing pictures and video of our military going in and blowing up roads that our media isn't talking about. Well, they're blowing up those roads to cut off the supply chain. So they can't, you have to cut the head off of the snake somehow. And, if it does require that a village gets cut off, well, they're going to be pissed off at the IRGC. It's because you fucking idiots are here. Our road's blowed up. So get out. It's almost like a color revolution. And I would be more... I honestly believe that the Iranians would fight back more than the Americans. Because no matter how you look at it, American people haven't been oppressed. No matter what you hear, what you see, all this shit with reparations and all this other fucking bullshit, you haven't been oppressed. You know how when people, oh, they always target me or they always target this and that. Guess what? You put yourself in that fucking position to be targeted. Now, granted, when like it comes to law enforcement, you have good cops, you have bad cops. The bad thing is the bad cops make the good cops want to leave because the bad cops are never held accountable. I shouldn't say never, but I would be more inclined to say the Iranians got more backbone than Americans. Because they want freedom. Fucking the American people will give up freedom for a fucking free cheeseburger. Or a bottle of Old E. I mean, shit, look how quick everybody gave up their freedom for the 19. You just laid down. Yeah, they kind of tied Trump's hands. I haven't read everything about it, but it ain't gonna matter. He hasn't, if somebody launches, I think that's why, honestly, Trump keeps coming out and saying we got a peace deal. It's almost like somebody has told him the legal side of DOJ that, okay, you got a peace deal. It's in the works. Ceasefire. Oh, they broke the ceasefire? Could that possibly reset the clock? And to be honest with you, I don't think there's anything Congress can do. And the reason I say that is because I still believe we're in continuity of government. Even though Trump's president, and now Trump being the commander-in-chief can authorize certain, shit with the military. But if what I believe happened on J6 with, you must go home peacefully, it checked boxes all over the place with the Insurrection Act. And until the president comes out and says the Insurrection Act or the coup, because you notice the news media is starting to use the word coup. So until the military comes to the commander-in-chief and says, Mr. President, we can 100% declare to you that the insurrection has been squashed and we turn this over to you, to civilian leadership, then I believe there's another, I'll have to look again, but I believe there's something that the president has to do to notify the American people that the insurrection is over. Yeah, this shit with Israel, I thought it was all bluster about this phone call between Trump and Bibi Netanyahu. The person that I talked to said there was a phone call. They don't know exactly what happened, but they do know he was pissed afterwards. And I'm just wondering if, because Israel is controlling Trump, right? I just wonder if Trump ain't telling this dude, look, the only reason you're not at the fucking Hague or swinging is because of me. So you might want to calm your fucking jets. I mean, that's, I would guess, and this may be coming in to the portion where we save Israel for last. And, just like out in California, I don't know what the hell they're going to do about this shit with these ballots being burned. Who knows? I mean, it's disgusting. It really. See, here's almost what I would like to see it. Like, let's say you have somebody in your city, right, that went and dumped gasoline in a ballot box and then set it on fire. You know how you stop that shit? Public execution. It may seem extreme, but you know how you take care of a thief, how they do it in the Middle East? They cut off their fucking hand. You're not stealing no more, player. There has to be some sort of showmanship and accountability. And to let generations know, you can't do this fucking shit. You really, really can't do this shit. Because you can say freedom of speech, guess what? All that shit ends when it interferes with mine. That's when it ends. Once you start interfering with somebody else's right, your right ends. Yeah, I'm Trump truth today about the election being stolen in California for the. I mean, who was it? Was it Hilton that's coming out and basically saying, yeah, this whole thing's a fucking sham. So now what do we do, right? Because I thought CISA told everybody this is the most safe and fair election system in the world. Oh, that don't surprise me, Laura. I know, look, during the last presidential election, not the one, when Biden beat Trump, my sister got a mail-in ballot for my house. She's not even registered here. She lives in Texas. So why are you... I got 2 ballots mailed to me, and I go to the ballot box. I go vote in person same day. This is where I think the executive order on national emergency on elections comes in. With all these states saying, oh, we're not turning over our voter rolls. Okay. Well, now everyone's going to have to re-register to vote. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but to me, it seems like that's the only way you can do it. And I think that's why, I think it was like maybe 6, 7 months ago where you started hearing stories about how the post office is going to be involved in the election somehow. Oh, it has to happen, Laura. It something truly has to happen. Or Donald Trump's the biggest fucking fraud there is. And there's enough breadcrumbs out there that show people stuff's going on. And I think a lot of this is going to be triggered after July 4th. People say they don't like giving dates, which I get. But July 4th is one hell of a date. Our independence in 250, and after July 4th, going into July 5th, it balls, which means midnight. That's the beginning of the golden age. So I believe that's when a lot of shit is going to start happening. And there is a lot, there is a lot of stuff. I was on a couple channels last night, not me personally on the panel, but just watching, and people are still convinced there's nothing happening. I mean, I can go through newspaper articles where people are getting picked up. They are getting indicted. Yeah, I get it. But, like I explained in yesterday's show, when you start getting into these grand juries, right? You start getting these indictments. There is a complex process, especially if you're dealing something in national security. Every grand jury member has to have an SSBI done. It's called a single scope background investigation. Every member that sits on that jury has to go through that process. That process can take up to 6 months just to get an interim security clearance. That means you don't have a full bore-on security clearance, but the things that they look at, like, do you have a lot of debt? Can you be compromised? Do you have any criminal record? Does anybody in your direct family have criminal records? Do you travel outside the... Those are the kind of things that start to get an interim clearance. Okay? I had nothing in my background. Literally nothing. I had one speeding ticket. And it took my interim clearance 7 months to get. Seven months. So, look, I mean, my Russian buddy, who I've talked about, who was the Navy's #1 ruling, it took him almost a year and a half to get his interim clearance because his family came from the Soviet Union. So they had to backtrace everybody that they could find in Russia if there was any ties to the KGB, the GRU. So it takes time. And then, God forbid, you seat that grand jury and there's a conflict somewhere. Then you have to possibly start a process for another grand jury if you run out of alternatives. And it may be to the point, too, to where they only have so much pool of people on the grand jury for that type of setting that they have to recycle those people for different grand juries. So it's a process, and I get it. And to me, the clock's running out. Because we're getting close to the midterms. I mean, that shit's in November. What happens if the Democrats win, or even some of the fake Republicans? And, you know, was it the first Monday of whatever the date is in January that the new Congress is sitting, that they're sworn in and seated? You know damn well that they are just going to fucking absolutely attack anybody in Trump's orbit. Anybody. So that's why I say when people lose hope, and I get it, I look at it like this. Something has to transpire between now in the midterm elections. And, you know, Trump says we always have to do everything constitutionally, right? You know, and I know I've been on the record saying I don't think midterms are going to happen. I'm still skeptical. But then again, it wouldn't surprise me if they did. And is that why Trump is holding off and doing all these, you know, temporary positions in the hopes that the American people... Now, what happens if, you know, the elections are fair and square, right? 100% on the up and up. And Democrats win because no kings and he's a dictator. Then what? Then what happens? To me, there has to be some sort of safeguard if any of this is true. And just because, you know, all these people won the primaries doesn't mean they're going to win the mayoral or the congressional or the Senate. What happens if they lose? It will be a bloodbath in D.C. You thought before it was bad. 2017 to 2021. Fuck. They'll make that look like a day at the playground at McDonald's during a kid's party. They will fucking pull out everything. Because of the hatred and because of, oh shit, maybe he really does have something on us and we got to get rid of this dude. I mean, they've tried damn near everything. They've only tried to off him, what, 4 times that we know of? Unofficially, I've heard it's more like 8 or 9, and now they're going after their family members. I mean, that there that there's going to be, I mean, that'll be a shit show. Trump won't be able to get a damn thing done. That's why we'll find out if any of this shit's true. I believe it is. I mean, there's just too many coincidences. You know, people point to that letter in the alphabet, but if you know what you're doing in that, in drawing a map and how certain things point to certain things that point to certain things that you have to do like 15 degrees of separation. It's amazing how some of this shit comes true. Or, you know, Trump will come out there do a post on True Social, and you know that clip was 3 minutes and 40 seconds long, and you go look up 340 on that board, and it talks about what he was just talking about. Or you reverse it. Instead of 340, you look at 43. And that post refers to what he was. You can't make that shit up. You can't. It's mathematically fucking impossible. But it keeps happening. And guess what? If the right people don't get in the midterms, do you think they're only going to go after Trump? Shit. They're going to come after everybody who supported that dude. Everybody. I mean, it will be. And you have to remember, a lot of these people, and I just don't want to say Democrats, but it's mostly, they're the most outspoken. They don't care. They'll fucking lie, cheat, steal to get it. I have been in contact with the White House, asked about tickets to visit the Capitol, White House at later in the year. He said, sure, if they do tours. Been before. Well, I can tell you this. I know you can't get into the White House. They are not doing tours at the White House right now. But that is interesting. You know, just look at the reflecting pool. It's been some years since I've been down there to DC. No, right now I wouldn't go. There's no way. But the reflecting pool, how hard was that, right? To make that DC should look like marvelous. And I honestly, I think it was all money laundering. You know, oh yeah, we'll pass this bill, we'll get it introduced, and if it passes, you got to give me 5%, 10%. Okay. So we'll just tack on an extra 15%. I hope so, Patriot. I mean, just, you would think, if you rationally thought about it, you would definitely think, if none of this was true, why would Donald Trump run a second time when he could be fucking on the golf course and not taking hits? Oh, Devin, my mom tells me all the time. She says, if I didn't know what you used to do for a living, I'd have you institutionalized. But now, my mom's starting to see it. And when I tell her something, or when Big Chair, when he talks to her, and he tells her something, and she's like, oh, that don't surprise me. I mean, she gets it now. I mean, she literally, and even my sister, who thinks I'm a absolute whack job, but she does it just to piss me off, because that's what we've done our whole lives. I do shit to piss her off. She does shit to piss me off. And she'll say, you're fucking crazy. And then when she talks to my mom, she's like, you know, you may be onto something. Oh, yeah, we're onto something. I mean, she even calls Big Chair fucking crazy. She knows him. I mean, he was at the wedding. She's like, oh, if he says it, it has to be bullshit or fucking crazy. Hell, Patriot, there's some countries now that if you get a DUI, you're not allowed to go to them. I've heard, of course, I don't know, I've never had a reason to look, but I heard if you got a DUI, you can't get into Canada. All right, hold on one sec. I gotta grab a beverage here. I seen right before. Yeah, you know, just think about this, right? So Trump leaves office in 2 years and 7 months. We're a year and a half into it. Why wouldn't the deep state just bide their time and wait till he's gone? Because if you get a Democratic hardcore, you don't think they're not going to take this shit out on us? Or any of their political enemies, you know, that they accuse Trump of doing? Not only that, you know, that picture of the military with Trump in it, when they were all in there in the shape of a Q, you know those guys are, if it is true, right? They are not going to let this shit happen. A coup of the government. A takeover. So there has to be something. If any of this is true, there has to be some fail-safe that we just don't slip back into this. What do I think they will do to us? Oh, they're going to punish our asses. Not just Republicans, Democrats. I mean, look at what they did during 19. They are going to do what they say Donald Trump is doing, taking away everybody's whatever. They're dictator, authoritarian. And I'm not just saying Democrats. If the wrong, anybody, any party gets in there. Anybody. So that's why, you know, I know there was a lot of people upset over the Monday show with Mike. That's all frustration. And I get it. But I look at shit a hell of a lot different because I've been exposed to a lot of this shit from years ago that I had no idea what it meant. But now some of the stuff has fallen into place. When I first learned about this whole message board, right? And I was reading through it. And this was back in the Frog days. When I first went on to Frog. And I told him, I said, dude, this shit right here is NSA message traffic. I told him that the whole structure is NSA message traffic. And then I called Big Chair. It's like, dude, go look at this. What do you think this is? He goes, this is NSA traffic. I was like, exactly. And he just chuckled. Because I think he knew more because he was still in that realm at that time. You know, and there's too much in there that has, look, talk about Pizzagate, right? Everybody said that was a conspiracy. That number had it in there. So, I don't know. Either somebody's a fucking time traveler or this is all scripted. And I think that's, you know, this latest post on, it was like a day or two ago of Trump pointing his finger. If you take that timestamp and go to that board and you look at it, it it says on that post, be calm, patriots. We're in control. I mean, okay, if you don't believe it, that's fine. But there's too many of the shit that he does. And I don't think it's him. I think it's a computer at NSA and Q Group, Q Cell, that time releases this shit. But you know, I don't know if maybe you guys have or haven't. You've noticed, I've noticed, and I'm not really looking that hard. I've noticed a lot of the podcasters that were calling us all fucking whack jobs, they've kind of tamped down. They're not as numerous as they were because I think some of those people are starting to realize, oh shit, maybe there is something to this. Oh yeah. I mean, who I don't think it was Bill Barr. But somebody said there were over 100,000 sealed indictments. Now, an indictment could be an indictment for a fucking company. It doesn't necessarily mean it's one person. So you take, just to give you the mass perspective, let's say out of those 100,000 indictments, 10% deal with national security. 10% require that grand jury members need a single scope background investigation done. So we are at 1,000 indictments that require security clearances. And let's say they do a jury pool of 13 members, including alternates. That's 13,000 people that have to be investigated. 13,000. And it's not just that person that gets investigated. They go to your parents. They look at them. They go to your grandparents. My security clearance was delayed because my father's parent, one of my father's parents, was in communist Romania. So they had to send agents to Romania because my grandmother was part of a, we would view it as a mafia. But over there, it's kind of like, it's called the House of Grecu, which is, in Romanian, the interpretation basically means it's the house of the Greek. Okay? So, we had no clue, zero clue. Now, my father had told, when we were kids, like I think it was his great-grandparents, they had like 21 fucking kids. And it's like, damn, did you ever get off this lady? We all thought it was just like bullshit folklore. And he would tell us how his dad, my grandfather, when, during World War II, that's where he met my grandmother, and telling us stories about her dad, my great-grandfather, when they were able to bring him over here because my grandmother was worried that he was going to get executed, possibly by Nikolai Ceausescu's group, because of he helped the U.S. war effort under this House of Grecu, Grecu, I think is what it, and I mean, it's crazy. But not only your parents, if you have any siblings, they have to be investigated. And a lot of this came about because of Walker, when he was selling U.S. Navy secrets, because they had a whole family of people selling secrets. So there was a drastic change in how that process was being done. So that's why I believe it's taking so long. And not only that, then once you start going to the grand jury under national security guidelines, you have to expose these people to a lot of shit that I guarantee you none of them have an inkling of what the U.S. government can do and what our military can do and what the sources and methods. Look, I'm telling you, the first time I went on a submarine, and I participated in my first op. It's fucking nuts what those things can do. And this was 25, 30 years ago. Where these boats go, like I've said, after when I was read into a couple programs, I remember making a comment to Chief Huertas, who was my div chief. I said, look, Chief, if the American people knew 90% of the shit that would happen, they'd go to fucking Canada. And he was from Puerto Rico and be like, hey, you got that right, man. You got that right, man. Yeah. Because it's some fucking scary, I mean, not scary shit, but it would blow your mind. That's why when, I try to explain some of this stuff to people and to you guys, you have to keep an open mind because you don't know what you don't know. There's things I have to keep an open mind on. Some stuff the big chair hints to me. And I'm like, dude, there's no way. Zero. And if you'd have told me on J6 that Big Chair was sitting in the operations room when all that shit was going down, I mean, I'd have believed it, but I'd been like, nah, dude. Because I was fucking pissed on J6. I was pissed that people were doing that. And then once I started seeing some anomalies with some people and some backpacks and why are all these people wearing the same shit that I keep seeing popping up? Why are cameras always in the right spot to catch the right thing? And I'm not talking about people with handheld cameras, like cell phones, live streaming this shit. I'm talking about why are the news outlet cameras always in the right spot? Always. I bet you I've watched that 4 or 5 hour footage 50 times. And every time I watch it, I see something new. And it's like, son of a bitch. Hump Red October. You got to look. I know when this is how crazy the government is too, especially with this type of material. When I got read off programs, okay, because you go in and you work a program and you get read on, okay, and basically what reading on is kind of like a brief. They kind of tell you what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and then when you get read off, you get debriefed. What all did you do? And this could be a project that lasts a month. This could be a project that lasts 2 years. And then, once you're done, you have to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. Every one of the ones that I signed was minimum 70 years. I'll be in the ground. That's how serious they take that shit. 70 years. So the last time I participated in anything that I had to do an NDA on was 2015. Okay? I was 43, 42. So I'd be 112 when I can even mention anything that was involved in that project. That's why I get so pissed off when you hear these congressional members come out and spill classified information. It's like, I know damn well you had to sign an NDA. If that was me, shit. I wouldn't even get a fucking trial. they'd be like, no, sorry, deuces, pal. Under the concrete you go. That is some crazy shit. But it's needed. But it also should be done equally across the board. You know, and just think about the stuff that we know for fact today. Hardcore fact that can be proven of anything that we've talked about in the last 8 years since 2016. Okay? If we'd have said this stuff that we know for fact has happened, and if you roll the clock back 8 years and I tell you the same thing, you'd have those people saying, oh, bullshit. You know, just like when I was told I was allowed to talk about the FBI moving to Alabama headquarters, and I got wham-basted for that. Was called everything but a white man. Hell, you even had, what was that guy's name? Mustang Medic, and you had that Penguin 6. They're like, oh, no, it's still open. No, it's not. The field office may be there, but headquarters has been moved. And here's the weird thing about that. They moved that under Joe Biden. Why? You know, and here's the other thing that you can look at that to the normal person doesn't make any sense. If you knew that there was damaging shit that was signed into an executive order that would expose you and your family vis-a-vis Joe Biden, okay? And there was an executive order, we'll say, 13848, that authorizes the Treasury Department to seize assets based on foreign interference, attempted coups, everything. And Joe Biden comes into office, and you know that that's damaging to you and everybody in your circle. Why would you keep renewing that executive order? Sounds like to me but they weren't calling the shots. And there were safeguards put in place, which possibly could be the reasoning that the Judge Advocate General Corps went into this U.S. Supreme Court to inform the justices. Look, we're in continuity of government. You keep doing what you guys do, but anything that deals with national security, you're not touching. You are not touching anything dealing with the 20. That's why I think every time something's went to the courts on 2020, it got kicked. they had to come up with some excuse because I believe, and it's just my personal belief, that the justices were informed. You will not touch anything dealing with national security. And I'll tell you what, when I first went for my interview, at the Bureau, okay? I got a golden ticket from Louis Freed and Bill Clinton. A golden ticket. Because during my checkout, and it was because of what I told you guys earlier, when I, lack of a better word, when I clocked in to do my job, I did my job. Because I was just so intrigued by it. I was always looking and listening. And when I worked in a certain area at the White House, and I intercepted something that was major, once again, by dumb luck. Not that I was any more skilled than the 4 other people that were in that room. It was just, I actually did what I was supposed to do and then some. And, you know, I believed at that time it was of such security interest that I had told the military aide to the Oval Office, that, hey, this should probably work its way up quickly. And, you know, they have a Office of Military Affairs there, and they took it to them, and then they called the Joint Chiefs and said, hey, you know, we got this. What do you want us to do? And, you know, they went to the Chief of Staff and said, hey, we got to get in and see him. And because of that, that's how I got my golden ticket. And when I was leaving, you know, Admiral Blair had asked me, where do you want to go? You got a golden ticket. You can go anywhere. You bypass everybody. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go CIA? Do you want to go DIA? NCIS? Where do you want to go? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm not going to the CIA, because them fuckers kill each other. And he just looked at me and gave me that smirk like, you're an idiot. Well, I know I'm an idiot. And, you know, at that time, I wanted to be home. I'd spent so much time overseas, so much time away from, you know, my grandparents and, you know, and my mother and my siblings, that I was like, dude, I want to go home. Nothing like home. And so they said, okay, they called Louis Freed, and I went down and spoke with Louis Freed, and he's like, look, here's 2 field offices. You pick one. Here's a letter. Had all the serial numbers, everything on it. You take it to that field office. You go in and speak with HR. Give them this letter, and you should be good to go. And it was all because dumb luck, I guess you could say. But to me, I think that was a path that a higher power chose for me, right? Because I you know, when I found out that the military issues were coming back health-wise, And I had to retire because I couldn't hold a security clearance in that form any longer. Dude, I was a basket case. I mean, I was under 40. I was like, fuck, this is all I know. I just can't go to any place and say, oh, well, here, here's what I've done. Give me a job. It don't work like that. And, you know, I believe I was set on a course for whatever, you know. And okay. Yeah, tomorrow that was the VA texting me, reminding me I gotta be there tomorrow at 1 o'clock for an endoscopy. I still haven't figured out what I'm gonna tell these doctors. I'm gonna come out with something just absolutely stupid. Last time I was up there, you know, they were doing an MRI or some crazy shit, and I looked at the nurse and I'm like, well, I'm not here for that. I'm here for my genderification surgery. And they looked at me and they're like, what? I'm like, oh my God, I'm fucking around. And then they start laughing. They're like, what are you talking about? Let's see. Breaking. John Bolton to plead guilty in classified document probe. Faces a $2 million fine. Oops. I'm telling you. That $2 million fine sounds like they're seizing his assets. They told me I couldn't eat anything after 9 o'clock, and I couldn't drink any non-clear liquids after midnight. So, and I think I don't know. I think they're putting a hose down my neck, down my throat. I don't know what the fuck for, but I think it's just part of, you know, a regular like check. Yeah, Bolton being assisted living. You know who he reminds me of? I forget what the guy's name is, but he always did those diabetes commercials. I got the diabetes. Got the diabetes. Wilford Brimley, I think, was his name. Yeah, I think you're right, Outlander. I think there's a lot of people that took deals. And you know, I had only heard this comment once or twice, but I think it was on Cola's Wednesday night, last night, that she played a clip because I sent her a clip of the Hillary Clinton where she got if it's up my nose, that'll be okay. I don't worry about that kind of stuff. Look, they thought I was going to be panicking when I had the heart surgery when I was awake. I was more worried about being put under than not being awake. I thought the being awake for the heart surgery was the coolest fucking thing. Oh yeah. Well, then I think the stomach issue is probably because of some of the medication I take. I have I have to you guys probably hear Panda in the background. She's going batshit nuts. I got this when my sister bought like 2 or 3 of these blankets from South Korea when she was stationed in, I think it was Incheon. And I still have these are like the best silk blankets. And Panda just loves them. And she gets up in them and she starts rolling around and burying herself in them. It's so funny watching her do it. Yeah, because some of the medication I take, it does give me issues with my stomach, that I get sick in my stomach. But yeah, they said they were going to drug me. Yeah, because they told me I had to have a ride and all that other fun shit. My fight instinct and choke reflex. You know, I told my mom, I said, this is so bad. I told her, I said, I think I know what I'm going to tell these doctors. And she's like, oh, what? And I said, especially if there's a female in there. And she's like, what, Jeffrey? And I said, I'm going to say, now I know what you ladies feel like. And my mom was like, you're going to hell with gasoline drawers on. And I'm like, probably. Make sure you use the right end, right? Wait, the last time, it wasn't the last time, but one of the times that I went to the VA, right? And they come in and they do like they check your pulse and all this, your blood pressure. The nurse said, okay, we're going to check your temperature. Well, she went to go get the temperature gauge, right? So as she's coming back in, I'm undoing my pants, and she's like, what the hell are you doing? And I'm like, well, you're checking my temperature, right? And she's like, yeah, but why are you getting ready to take your pants down? I said, oh, they always do it in my rectum. And she just looked at me. She's like, you know what? I'm done with you today. But, those people have some stressful jobs because they deal with some shit. And that's why every time I go in there, I try to joke with them. Propofol. Oh, shit. I've had that stuff before. Woo! I was seeing shit when they put me on propofol. Oh, that might be fun. I've already done the fecal sample. That I did that. You have to. They give you this like stick, and you have to scrape it and then put it in this tube thing, and then you gotta seal it, and then you gotta put it in this, and then you mail it off. Yeah, I've done that. I've done that quite a few times, just because so much cancer runs in our family. But yeah, so my oldest brother has taken me up, and naturally Agatha Christie has to come with us, so because she's always afraid I'm going to act out. And then when I told her that they're going to dope me up, she's like, oh, you better not act out of pocket. I'm like, I never act out of pocket. So let me look and see what is going on in the wild, wild world of sports here. I haven't looked at any Arabic news. Take lots of pics. Yeah. Like I said, when my neighbor called me last night, I was just like, oh, shit. And so my mom had me go down to the hospital. She called one of her nurses down there to get, they're kind of like crutches, but you you put your forearm into this thing and you hold on to it. It's kind of like I've seen people who have like cerebral palsy and they use them. So she had me go down to the hospital to pick up a set of those so he could actually like give himself some balance to walk, and then got him in the vehicle and took him to Columbus. I was kind of relieved when he texted me this morning and said, hey, they're going to keep me for a few days. You know, he's more concerned about his puppy. Well, he's not a puppy, but it's like his kid, which I totally get. I mean, Panda, she's kind of like my kid. She acts like a damn kid. She pisses me off, and I know she pisses me off. Let's see here. Let's see. Rokna News. What do? Nothing there. Let's see. Now she's going to be out there dragging her food bowl all over the place because she thinks she should have food now. And she knows she don't eat till about 5 o'clock. Let's see. CBS spokesman has reportedly denied reports that Joe Rogan is being considered for a role at 60 Minutes. That'd be a shit show. So what are your guys' thoughts on this whole UFC ring? I don't agree with it. I think it's, you know, very rarely do I agree with Democrats, but I do find it very tacky.
ترامپ هم تو این گفتگوش اینو تایید کرد. بلافاصله نتانیاهو یه گفتگویی انجام میده ضمن تایید این درگیری لفظیه، اما میگه که خب این تو کار پیش میاد، ما هم هیچ مشکل حل نشده ای نداریم. اما نکته مهم اینجاست که ببینید، من به نظرم این رفتار ترامپ و گفتگوی نتانیاهو کاملا مشخص میکنه که آمریکا و اسرائیل بر مبنای یک طرحی دارن جلو میرن برای مقابله اسلام ایران. چون
That guy, he's a commentator on Iranian news, and he's talking about this phone call between Netanyahu and Trump, and how basically Trump went off on Netanyahu. Breaking. John Bolton reaches a plea deal over the mishandling of sensitive national security documents. So, it looks like they probably told him, you either do this or you're going night-night. What's the matter, Miss Panda? What? Now she's staring at me, and she's going to sit up on her hind legs. Oh, nope. Now she jumps up behind me and starts scratching my ear. Now she's on her hind legs and flapping her paws back and forth at me. All right, hold on. Let me grab her something real quick. Alrighty, I got her. Gave her some. She loves salami. Gave her a little bit of salami to tide her over because I think we're gonna make liver and onions this evening. Oh my God, she destroys liver. Beef liver. I could eat that damn near every day of the week. Only my oldest brother and I and my mother eat it. Everybody else, all my other siblings, they can't stand it. And then she finished eating it. I just gave her a little bit. You'll start hearing her soon. She'll be snorting and all this other shit, and then she'll get the zoomies and run all over the place every time after she eats. Let's see here. Well, there she starts. She's taking off. What? Yeah, you ate, didn't you? So the Senate narrowly defeats Schumer's amendment to ban Trump's weaponization fund. These 3 Republicans voted Democratic, and then it lists the Todd Blanche and Dr. Oz announced new indictments against 14 defendants in Ohio Medicare fraud scheme. 49 home health care providers suspended. See, now this is the thing that, you know, this isn't... This is the kind of stuff that gets me when, you know, people say, oh, there's nothing happening. There is stuff happening. It's just not what we want, you know. President Trump just signed an executive order that will save America up to $100 billion due to tariff evaders. The order surges U.S. Customs enforcement that will save American billions of dollars, helping detect contraband, illegal goods, and accurate accounting for imported goods. 15 plus billion saved in the first year, then 25 billion, and then 80 billion, and then 80 to 100 billion later. On top of the crackdown, even more on fentanyl. So he just signed this, looks like yesterday. You guys can probably hear her snorting. she's a nut job. What? You have to go outside? Is that what you want? All right, give me a few minutes, guys. I'll be back. Alrighty, I'm back. I took her out and she seen a groundhog for the first time about shit herself. She went out and started to walk out, and I seen her like staring at something, and then all of a sudden she just like sprawled out and laid down on all fours, and yeah, she's trained me all right. And my mother, oh my God, those two, it's so funny. My mom will sit there and talk to her, and Panda will like growl or whatever. My mom tells her not to talk back, and she does. She keeps doing it. It's so damn funny. Let's see. Yeah, it. I don't know about you guys, but boy, it seems like it's been eerily quiet. Yeah, she was more curious than anything else. And when it ran, she was like, she turned around and looked at me like, can I go get it? And it's like, no. That thing will F you up. Let's see here. I got to work on getting some more stickers up on the merch website. I was working on that right before my neighbor called me, and I was like, I knew when he texted me, I was like, oh shit. I was like, yeah. But I got rid of a couple hell points. I don't know how many, but I got rid of a couple. Let me go back. I seen some of these notifications come in for these Arabic channels I look at. Let's see. Oh, it's all football news. New York Post published a disgraced ex-Prince Andrew seen with a giant mysterious bruise on his face. Probably got his ass whipped. From Trump on Truth Social. The fountain was dedicated more than 100 years ago in 1912, and after it stopped working in 2007, Obama and Biden let the fountain fall further into decay. So there was significant work to get the fountain functionable. The first photo below is what the Columbus fountain looked like after it was vandalized under Biden. The other picture shows what it looks like now under Trump. The Carrara marble from Italy is so clean that it looks freshly quarried. Michelangelo's David statue, arguably the world's most famous marble statue, is made of Carrara marble. You know, here's the other thing too that I find funny. All these people that are, you know, I believe rightly bitching about this UFC ring. All these left wing publicist and all this shit. Where was all the disgrace when you had women on the front lawn with no tops on during Gay Pride? There was no outrage about that. Yeah, I seen the picture, Outlandish. Holy shizbots. That dude got messed up. It's like Mike Tyson, like, right in his kisser. But yeah, remember all the lesbians out there with no shirt on, and you had all these women out there and congressional members dancing with them. That was okay, I guess. Just everything. That's just disgusting. Especially to submit. Kids don't need to see that shit. You know, when you become an adult, and if that's the choice you decide to make, that's between you and your God, but they don't need to be exposed to that nonsense. Alrighty. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna see if Big Chair can do some video of them down there. Send them to me. He'll probably tell me to get in my vehicle and come down. And I'll be like, no. What the hell is a free ticket? Yeah, there's so much to this this app that I'm using on the Blade server to control all the. I'm gonna have to like go through YouTube and watch some of the tutorials. Yeah, it was disgusting. Nancy's, oh my God. Oh, Nancy. I'm telling you, she writes a check. Put her in a coma. as my one Russian buddy would say, I knocked the brakes off her. What? She's got brakes? You know what I mean, bitch. Let's see. Let me see. Because I got a couple things I got to get done here before 3:30. Let me put some audio up. And I got Israel up. Look at all that shit flying into southern Saudi Arabia in the UAE. Boy, I'd love to know somebody that's in that region just to like take pictures of what the fuck they're bringing in. Because I'm sure we got a lot of stuff pulling in there. Yeah. Call up Nancy. Hey Nancy, what's going on? Sugar mama. I need a date for the night. What you doing, girl? I got a free bottle of wine with your name on it. Ugh, I couldn't imagine. Let's see. Let me do this on another machine. Let's see. What's that? Fox News Now or something like that, just to get some audio. Feds raid the mansion of tech CEO sending secret shipments to Iran. Oops, Newport Beach, Cali.
Whether you're in the shop or fixing your own vehicle at home, Harbor Freight has the floor jacks and jack stands you need at prices that make sense.
Get that temporarily
Harbor
here.
Freight, your floor jack and jack stand destination.
Next. Very leading edge of is a class of drug called orphines, which sounds very much like morphine and other opioids that we've heard about, but it's a different class of drugs, and that might be the next challenge that we're facing.
And then just, again, thinking about the prevention, education, treatment side of things, I do want to we should do everything we can to address the front end, the supply side, but we should also do everything on the prevention side. I do worry a lot about the counterfeit medications that may be legitimate medications that are coming across that are now laced with fentanyl and accidental deaths that are taking place. I don't have a lot of time, but if there are strategies and things that we should be thinking about that.
Sir, that's a great question, and our view at RAND is we view this wicked problem as an ecosystem made up of three main components in the equation: reducing the supply, reducing the demand, and reducing the harms from these illegal substances. And we need action across all three aspects of that to have the greatest effect on the problem.
All right, so we are listening in there to a House subcommittee hearing talking about China's role in the fentanyl crisis here in the United States. Fentanyl, the leading cause of fatal overdoses in the U.S. A lot of line of questioning about China's role in all of this. We're going to just step away for a brief break. A lot more news to get to. Stay with.
At Grainger, we have over 1 million products, including the ones that help keep your workplace safe and sound. Shop our vast inventory of safety products at Grainger.com. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinn. Continuing to monitor all of our live feeds. Is coming up in just about 15 minutes or so. We are expecting to hear from President Trump from inside the White House as he makes a major announcement on coal. And this is what Fox Business shared just a little earlier, stating that he is expected to unveil a $700 million coal industry support plan using the Defense Production Act. We're going to bring that to you as soon as we get that live feed. President Trump continuing to be very busy, as tomorrow he is expected to speak with Wisconsin farmers. And we did want to let you know, as we're always looking ahead with our live coverage here at Live Now from Fox, that is expected to start at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We will also be carrying this event in its entirety. So again, President Trump will be traveling to Wisconsin tomorrow to talk with farmers. All of that expected to get underway at around 4 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, continuing to be a very busy day on Capitol Hill. Happening right now, there is a House subcommittee hearing talking about China's role in the fentanyl crisis here in the United States. Let's continue to listen in live.
Many communities are carrying the weight of a preventable loss. Over 150 Rhode Islanders died of opioid overdoses last year. While we're making headway, there's still more work to do. Thanks to the work of Rhode Island's Overdose Task Force, first responders, healthcare providers, and harm reduction organizations, overdose deaths have declined. We have also expanded the use of overdose reversal medications like naloxone to save lives. Just last December, quick-thinking Providence firefighters used naloxone to save 7 college students who overdosed at a house party. I'm leading the bipartisan Having Overdose Protection Equipment, or HOPE Act, with Congressman Addison McDowell to ensure that these life-saving medications are readily available in public spaces. But expanding access to naloxone alone is not enough to end this crisis. If we're serious about ending this crisis, we also have to stop these drugs before they reach our communities, a sentiment I've heard echoed in this hearing today. That means confronting the flow of precursor chemicals used to manufacture synthetic opioids. China remains a major source of the precursor chemicals fueling this epidemic. While progress has been made in disrupting supply chains, traffickers continue to adapt faster than governments. The drugs entering our communities today are more potent, more unpredictable, and more deadly than ever. In the last few months, Rhode Island has seen a spike in opioid deaths from these new drugs, which are 10 times more potent than fentanyl. Cyclorphine and spirochlorphine, drugs that can require multiple doses of overdose reversal medications to survive. We need stronger international cooperation, better intelligence sharing, and sustained pressure on criminal networks moving precursor chemicals and synthetic opioids around the world. Now, historically, we've worked with China to combat the flow of precursor chemicals from China, but the Trump administration has derailed our bilateral efforts and cooperation. The Trump-Xi summit in Beijing last month was an opportunity for the president to make progress, but we haven't seen any changes or updates on this urgent matter. So, Dr. Liu, what steps should the United States have pursued during the summit with China, and what can we do with them and other international partners to disrupt precursor chemical supply chains and prevent these substances from reaching the Western Hemisphere?
Thank you very much for your question. I would say the most important thing, number one recommendation I would say, is to strengthen targeted sanctions. In addition to just broad sanction, I would say Congress should support targeted sanctions against not just Chinese but foreign chemical suppliers in general. Part of the reason is because even if we cut off suppliers from China, there are other places such as India that are remain to be major suppliers to international API market. And then to directly answer your question with regard to what happened during the Trump-Xi summit, I would say that has been a following at least in May. So far, there have been 2 announcements, nothing proven in terms of action yet, but 2 announcements coming from Chinese authorities with regard to tightening control of chemical materials flowing from China. But again, this is why I think Congress should ask not just about proof of announcement, really following up with regard to actions.
Thank you. What we're also seeing from the Trump administration is harm programs aimed at combating the opioid crisis. The administration has cut grant programs and fired expert staff working to combat the opioid crisis and respond to new synthetic drugs at the CDC and SAMHSA. And they're proposing cuts to the international narcotics control and law enforcement grant programs that target the fentanyl supply chain by funding training, equipment, and other investigative capabilities in partner countries. So, Dr. Liu, how would the cuts to these programs and the firing of our expert staff impact the U.S. ability to counter the flow of fentanyl precursors?
Unfortunately, funding cut directly reduce not just the expertise that can identify the flow of fentanyl trafficking, but also just the human power that we can afford to literally put people on the ground, put people in the lab, put people in the hospital, put people staffing schools to educate the children. And this funding cut directly affect how we can educate our children in terms of the danger of early drug addiction. And this is where I want to address Representative Barra, your question with regards to what extent China is suffering from fentanyl crisis. I have to say, China, this is where China has a comparative advantage relative to America. They have within China's education system, counter-narcotics start from kindergarten level. And this is why I think Congress should fund not just funding program for hospitals, for preventative cares, but also fund school programs that can make sure our children are aware of the danger.
Thank you. I appreciate that sentiment and our work to protect our children and people of all ages from this terrible drug is so important. So I am grateful for your work, and I yield back.
Thank you. I now recognize the gentlelady from South Carolina, Representative Biggs.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm grateful for our witnesses for being here today. So many families across the nation and across my district have lost loved ones because of the fentanyl crisis.
All right, guys, I am going to end this one. I should be back in roughly an hour. I gotta restart this machine here, so we will be back probably within an hour and a half, and we do a watch on Iran and that, because I don't know, I just got a suspicion we're probably going to do some damage here shortly. So with that, I will see you guys shortly. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, share, and you can subscribe to all these platforms. It's listed, and we will see you shortly. Thank you guys, and